this ought to be confusing. It's the Wranglerbarn Fireside Chat on the U.S. Navy ER doc.
Hey, and it's good to finally meet you.
It's good to meet you too.
And I'll just say Cody is much taller than he looks on camera.
It's the tactical shoes.
It's a tactical shoe.
Yeah.
Exactly. I saw 2 pairs of those.
I've gotten more heat over the shoes than I think anything I've done.
Mine too. I had some guy say, "What are you wearing those shoes for?"
Well, those were cool last year.
They're easy.
The Crocs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are nice though. Beth has a pair of those.
The Danskos? Yeah. When I started doing clinic or internship at the ER.
Everybody.
It was before the Croc era, and everyone had the Danskos, and then Jessica.
These are very popular in the ER.
So how long was it, did we correspond back and forth before I finally got a clue that you lived in about 15, 20 minutes from me?
A long time. Even mailed a couple of packages back and forth.
I kept talking to him and corresponding, and he would say, you were always in Eastern Oregon.
Right, I was always in Sisters.
Sisters, and that's 3 or 4 hours from here, over a mountain pass, and I just assumed that that's where you were from.
Right. Being tactical.
Right. Even I didn't put it together when you went to the grotto with the Christmas lights. And
right. And you say that's in Portland.
Yeah, I thought, oh, he must really like that to drive all the
way from Ben's Sisters to go to the grotto. Exactly. Yeah. So we're like 15, 20 minutes away.
Right. Too bad you guys couldn't have been a fly on the wall for the last 3 hours we've talked here.
Yeah. I tied up 3 hours of shot time here.
It's better than work.
And a nice talk over at the gun bench.
At the gun bench. Well, what were we talking about? Oh, I've gotten so many questions about the how come the SIG or over the Glock and all of that, back and forth, and why? It's my train of thought here. Why the change? What's the differences with the change? And like I told you, the difference is the Glock is so much simpler with that single pull, that single striker fire, versus the double action on the first pull. And like we were talking about, it just if you had to choose one gun, what would it be?
And you could argue one or the other. That SIG is a nice gun, but probably the Glock.
Yeah, the SIG is a pleasure to own. It's a pleasure to handle and just the sheer beauty and for what it is. But when it comes down to needing a tool that really works every time, all the time, and being consistent, then what did you buy?
I bought the Glock 19.
Yeah. If you could only have one, that'd be the one to have. So what do you have planned? What's anything cool on the videos coming up?
I'm going to be getting into the some preparedness. So we were talking about the importance of preparing water sources, food, so that you can have a buffer if there's any problems. So I've got some videos planned with that, and more of the wilderness medicine stuff.
Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of guys write in and ask about, I've been looking at property, I want to buy property, and what criteria, what do I need to look for? How much land do I need? One guy wrote me today, I've checked up here in northern Minnesota, and we can buy like 40 acre land for $4,000 an acre. Is this
How much land? How
much land do you need, and what are the criteria? And Jessica and I, we talked about that a lot. And one of the criteria is we have to have southern exposure, because if you live on a northern exposure or have that, you're just going to freeze.
Right.
So even if you don't have the ability to have solar right up front, just by having glass in the front of your place, you can get some solar. You can get passive solar from that. Right. And the second thing is a good water supply. And be careful that if you think you're going to rely upon a deep well.
We were talking about that because now you've got to have the energy to pull that water out of the aquifer.
And what does a well pump? It's going to run off at 240.
Right.
Even a 3/4 horse, anything like that, when that pump kicks on, that power spike is just outrageous. You have to have about a 10 kW generator just to run that well pump.
Just to start it up.
Just to start it up. Or it's going to be bucket and rope.
A lot of energy that way. You really appreciate each bucket of water by doing that. Yeah.
That's an option. So a good water supply, obviously, and a lot of that you can augment by catching water, storing it 55 gallons.
Cistern and collecting rainwater.
Yeah, sure. So that's hard to say. How much land does it take that you can generate your own fuel for as far as wood without, if you have
And
5
it's
acres,
sustainable.
it's going to sustain it.
Right.
And that's what's the nice thing about being up to public land. Yeah, you know, you can't legally go and cut wood on public land, but if things go bad, it gets to that, I don't think you're going to have to worry about the
Access, yeah.
forest ranger, you know, writing you a citation if you were to pull some windfall off of the forest. So,
Right.
not to mention having access to local fisheries and game to be able to hunt. I mean, if you were just living off of potatoes off of the potato hole, you'd be pretty happy to have an elk steak.
Exactly.
Or fish.
And I think that's why your property is so attractive, because you've got that exposure to public land, you've
Right.
got water, you've got the exposure.
And what are your neighbors going to be like? That's not something you can really control, but for the most part, the people who are going to live in that environment are going to be really self-sufficient, can-do people. And that's
Similar mindset.
Similar mindset, yeah. And if they're out there, you know, you're probably going to need to rely upon each other.